peacekeepers and the first U.S. military victims of Middle East terrorism when their barracks were bombed. Desert Storm in '91 as part of the Allied forces liberating Kuwait, and later called in to rescue the Kurds from Iraqi attacks. They were the first ashore in Somalia to battle the warlords and protect the relief efforts in '93. Sent into Haiti in '94 to help keep the peace between warring political factions. To Bosnia in '95 to rescue downed pilots. Albania in '97 to evacuate American citizens under fire. And to Kosovo in '99 with the UN forces to restore peace and order.
Marines can do everything from take care of the sick, the starving, to punching somebody's lights out.
In 1995, Major General Martin Berndt was the commander of the Expeditionary Unit and the recovery team that went into Bosnia to rescue Captain Scott O'Grady, the downed Air Force pilot. It was the only American ground unit to engage the Serbs. He is now the commander of the Marine Expeditionary Forces based at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which trains and sends expeditionary strike forces, including the 26th, to trouble spots in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe.
We really are in many ways a utility infielder. Everything from reinforcing an embassy to conducting an evacuation of non-combatants to providing humanitarian assistance to conducting amphibious raids. Their ability to move around that sea unencumbered by some of the politics and diplomacy that's necessary to get forces ashore. They provide a great deal of uncertainty in the minds of people that would harm us. Embarked aboard amphibious ships, we don't get in anybody's way. They don't know where they are. They don't know what they're going to do, and that's good. We are dirty fighters. We are simply dirty street fighters.
They're also the spouses, parents, and children of American families who have a personal stake in this crisis.
Yeah, it's a little different because of what's happened to our country, and it's scary too as a wife.
Well, I'm kind of nervous because he might, be going to war.
I'm afraid he won't return.
When I watched my husband leave for Vietnam, of course it was emotional. Now, to see my children leave, especially John, him being my youngest, when he left, it was very emotional for me.
I was a Marine, I was a Marine officer, but to send your son to war was a very, very difficult thing, and I realized, my God, how the real heroes are the women who stay behind, the mothers and the dads who have to suffer this protracted uncertainty.
We are the 911 force of the country. We are most ready when the nation is least ready.
The 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, called a MEU, is a special operations capable unit stationed aboard 3 ships with the Navy's 6th Fleet, which has been sent into the crisis area. A totally self-contained force of infantry, armor, artillery, helicopters, and fighter jets. They travel with enough combat and medical support to be able to execute any one of its 20 different combat, rescue, or humanitarian missions with only 6 hours' notice.
When we first came out, none of us were expecting anything to happen. It was supposed to be just hitting ports and doing a lot of training overseas. But now the whole situation's changed, and we could go into a real-world crisis now, and we're ready for it. If anything happens, we're ready.
Life aboard the ships for the Marines is the classic rendition of the military's hurry up and wait.
Hey, this is a great ship, but the field environment is the best environment. That's when Marines are earning their money, doing the thing that make them Marines. This is just wait and go.
Those living aboard the USS Bataan amphibious and helicopter assault ship have it best, since it's one of the Navy's newest ships, complete with air-conditioned living quarters, a store for buying personal items, a fully equipped weight room for maintaining their fitness, and a shipboard television network with 24 hours of entertainment, sports, and news. Corporal Zabrim Bonsai is from New York City and was home on leave September 7th, taking pictures of the World Trade Center.
I decided to stop in Manhattan like I always do, and I took a picture on my back of the trade centers. And then a couple days later, I got to witness the Trade Center attack that following Tuesday. I didn't learn till probably, I think it was the night that I was leaving to jump on the ship, that I spoke with my father, and he told me that, you had a cousin that came to the States not too long ago. He died in the Trade Center attack. She was shocked, and now it's not much as a fear, but it's something we got to get settled. And I say to all Marines, it's not an act of revenge, it's our job. The country calls on us, and we're here to protect the country, and we're standing by until we get that call.
A flag raised over the World Trade Center ruins by New York firefighters during the recovery effort was flown out to the aircraft carrier leading the military response into the crisis area with its Marine Expeditionary Unit. It was raised in a solemn ceremony as the new battle standard in America's war on terrorism, wherever it takes all who have responded to this latest call to arms.
It's just so many things up in the air right now. We don't know who the terrorists are, when they're coming at us next, and it's the unknown, it really is.
Up next, the war on international terrorism heats up as the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit steams closer to the conflict.
October 3rd, 1993. Mogadishu, Somalia. 18 American soldiers killed, 75 wounded.
I just remember explosions all over the place.
They were the first to battle the forces of bin Laden. Can the costly lessons learned then help us fight terrorism now? MSNBC investigates. Task Force Ranger. Tonight at 9, only on MSNBC.
It is 10 days since they left their base in North Carolina and crossed the Atlantic. Now, the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit reaches the Mediterranean and continues onward to the Middle East, final destination unknown, as America's roving 911 strike force for the next 6 months.
Copy that. Control for aircraft 3, fuel for aircraft 33.
Keeping to their special operations charter, they travel with their own aviation complement of helicopter transports, gunships, and the vertical takeoff Harrier attack jets for supporting their ground units and forward reconnaissance.
That would be SOP, good. I think I'd put a little more effort on studying like some of the threats that may be faced with that probably wouldn't put as much effort into before, what kind of missile defense systems these other countries have and things like that.
Harrier pilot captains John Ferguson and Brad Brennan would probably be the first to enter hostile territory and are taking this deployment much more seriously, just like their friends and families back home.
I'm getting emails, calls from people I haven't heard from, seen in a long time, showing support, wishing us well, which is really nice.
It's a much different public response than during Vietnam, when their fathers were Marine aviators serving a deeply divided country.
He got out in the early 70s, and he said when he came back to the United States, he got a job flipping pizzas and pumping gas, and that's the only job he could get, and it was kind of a disgrace, he felt. So we talked about that.
So did Corporal Chris Spiegler with his Vietnam veteran father. He considers this deployment to be somewhat of a delayed validation of his father's previous commitment to his country and the Marine Corps.
He'd tell me what it was like back then in the 60s and how he'd come home and, people, they'd call him a baby killer or, any, bad things like that. And he's really proud, basically. I come home and the town has a parade.
Corporal Spiegler is now a crew chief on the same type of helicopter his father flew as a Marine in Vietnam.
There's only 4 females on this ship right now in the Marine element that have the probability of seeing combat, and those are your flyers, which there are 4 of us.
As a helicopter crew chief, Corporal Jennifer Weiss is responsible for all of the mechanical and electrical operations on her craft, as well as manning the 50 caliber machine gun that protects it.
What you do every day at work, that reflects on somebody else's life, because you're responsible for that maintenance on the aircraft. If you don't take your job 110% seriously, you could take that person's life in your hands. So you have to sort of have a bond there.
2 of her colleagues were killed in a crash this summer during the intense workup training leading up to their deployment. Because of the unpredictable nature of their mission and the special operations they must be able to perform, all of the different specialties that make up the Expeditionary Unit spent the previous 6 months working together on a variety of tactical scenarios they might encounter, including biological attacks and urban combat.
All right, drop your gear off, come right back. The guys we've been together about 1.5 years, 6 months with this MEU. We've trained together, we've trained hard together. These guys are chomping at the bit. Hey, we're gonna do something, we're gonna do something. I mean, they're ready, they really are. This is what they joined the Marine Corps for, to get in the action.
Gunnery Sergeant John Halpin is part of the Marines' elite force reconnaissance platoon, the eyes and ears of the unit, which goes into new areas or behind enemy lines in advance of the main force. The mission? To locate military targets and terrorist groups.
The people that are already in Afghanistan, our job is just that much more critical to get the reconnaissance, to find out, pinpoint where those groups may be. We're professional soldiers, whereas these terrorist groups, they're not professional, unorganized. I mean, any yahoo can take a car full of explosives and drive it into something, all right? With us, we're more disciplined, well organized, and we're well structured. That makes a difference.
The major difference for Gunnery Sergeant John Halpin on this, his 4th deployment, is being able to communicate with his wife by email, even if he can't disclose where he is or what he's doing. It's turned into a bit of a competition with his neighbor, Gunnery Sergeant David Hargrove, and their wives living across the street from each other back at Camp Lejeune, where they were able to view this videotape we recorded on the ship.
We compete on who gets the most email or who emails the most.
We did that. So I email about every day or every other day. And he asks me to email a day. So as soon as he talks to me, he goes back to his room and starts emailing. We haven't been off the ship too much, but you know, things are going okay. Morale's good. Just keep your emails coming. Austin, don't give your...
I don't ever ask him where he's at. If he volunteers the information to me, then that's great and fine, but I never ask. There are times I have, you know, like ideas, like I knew where he went recently, you know, but obviously I didn't know until he got there. And he's not ever going to tell me something he's not allowed to say or couldn't say.
You just have to be strong. You can't dwell on it. You know, you have to go on with your everyday life, and you know, the child's gonna walk and the child's gonna get potty trained. It's just, you can't, you know, you cannot go. You've got to go on with everyday life.
As part of everyday life at sea, each evening Marines and sailors share a quiet moment of reflection, led by the ship's chaplain.
We ask above all, Lord, that you would keep us all safe tonight off the coast of Egypt. And we ask that you would keep our families safe as well. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen.
All right, stand up. Let's go.
When we return, the first order to send in the Marines comes off the coast of Egypt. 19 days after leaving home, the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit gets its first assignment.
All right, let's hell up, let's go.
Operation Bright Star in northern Egypt. A desert training exercise with coalition forces. The timing and location make it their last dress rehearsal with live ammunition and their first show of force in the region.
This is not just a training exercise. This could be, something where we just need to be prepared for whatever. So it's hard to compare it with the past because the world has changed here recently in the last 6-7 weeks.
As the commanding officer of the unit, one of Colonel Andrew Frick's first objectives is to move 2,200 people and over 200 armored vehicles and trucks ashore in a single day, according to the Marine Corps motto, by air, land, and sea.
I hate to say it's a logistics nightmare. It's a logistics challenge. But we know what we need to sustain ourselves for the first 24 hours and followed by the next 24 and so on. And that's the way we pack the stuff so that as it comes off, 9 times out of 10, it's the thing you need next anyway.
Ready to go. Get up, son. All right, let's hell up. Let's go. Stay motivated, ready to go.
Conveying the appropriate urgency to the troops is the specialty of the Sergeant Major.
Motivation high. Motivation high, because this is what we train for. I mean, you go through 6 months of workup, and we know it's all game and play. Then you get something like what happened on the 11th of September this year. Marines get motivated.
Everybody and everything on the 3 ships is given a number and a precise offloading sequence, which moves them toward their helicopters on the flight deck
1607.
or their landing crafts below decks.
We probably got 120, 150 pounds right now with all this gear.
Gunnery Sergeant Halpin's reconnaissance platoon will go ashore by helicopter, carrying everything they need to function immediately. Corporal Bonsay's demolition unit is already ashore, where it meets up with support gear coming from another ship.
We've done a lot of micromanagement of the customer to understand what he's going to need in the first 24 to 48 hours. We know that water, chow, and ammo are the 3 biggest things that the customer is going to need up front.
Sir, TACP shoot.
The colonel's focus on customer care for his Marines is part tactical necessity and partly a result of his previous assignment, working with the Sears Roebuck's logistics group for a management exchange. On the critical first day going ashore, he moves quickly from ship to shore to remote outposts to guarantee same-day delivery of everything they need. In a matter of hours, the Marines turn an empty patch of desert into a fully functioning forward military base. What makes them different from most military units, and true to their expeditionary nature, they must be totally self-sustaining for the first 15 days, wherever they are sent. The combat elements set up remote camps throughout the area, which they'll move almost daily for both security and training purposes. At the same time, the support elements construct a headquarters base near an Egyptian army facility. It will eventually include a full surgical hospital, gym, chapel, satellite telephones and full internet connectivity, and a military-strength laundry manned by a rifle squad of Marines.
Somebody's got to do it.
A strikingly non-military mess hall offers 2 hot meals a day for the troops who can get back to the main base.
Check your weapon for clear. Both mess decks are open.
But only after they have made sure to clear their weapons for safety reasons and wash their hands for hygiene purposes. The same combat support equipment and expertise the Marines use to build a base in less than 24 hours can also be used for humanitarian missions, like their past assignments in Somalia, Albania, and Rwanda. A humanitarian mission is just as likely in the context of this crisis as a combat assault.
Our focus area is really to relieve the initial suffering. We have food, we have water. We can provide that immediately on site, within an hour. We bring general purpose tents, much like you see out here today. And again, we can have those up in support of about 300 men, women, and children in the course of 3 hours.
Knowing that they may be called into combat at any time, The Marines go through drills like these to prepare for treating real casualties.
We have all the normal trauma resuscitation equipment that you would expect from being able to put chest tubes in, IVs, fluids, antibiotics, to just the basic human comfort items that you would need, such as sanitary napkins, diapers, soap. We are very much like the Peace Corps in terms of our compassion, our comfort, and our trying to rebuild infrastructure. But we do still carry weapons for security purposes.
When we return, the Marine Reconnaissance team hooks up with coalition forces as a special operations rehearsal takes on new urgency. Welcome back to Tip of the Spear, MSNBC's inside look at one special Marine unit now helping to lead America's new war against terrorism. MSNBC was welcomed by the Marine Corps and Navy to bring you this exclusive profile of the Marines of the 26th Expeditionary Unit. They arrive in the Middle East for a regular deployment as the 911 force in that region, just as the bombing of Afghanistan begins. And they begin desert training exercises with a heightened sense of urgency.
Obviously, the recent events within the world have put us in a force protection posture that's been higher than has been seen in the past. You know, I think all my young Marines and sailors understand where the world is today. So, I mean, they know that this is serious business.
Truck, 500 meters due east.
Sniper teams man the watchtowers protecting the camp. They're trained to stop a target at 1,000 yards and to be able to spot a potential threat while there's still time to do something about it.
We're looking for different techniques of the way personnel would come in, like a national, and if he's writing stuff down or if he does something different than he did the day before.
You can notice little things about people, just eye movements, the way their hands are moving around. Usually give signs that they're counting certain things in the compound.
Before dawn, Gunnery Sergeant Halpin has his reconnaissance platoon up and preparing for a practice parachute insertion, one of their specialties.
With the training they've received, they're ready to go. They really are. And the mindset's there because of the realism now. What happened back in the United States, you know, it's our homeland. So now it's like, wow, this is really happening. So now we've got to take that training and possibly put it to use.
He and his highly trained and specially selected Force Reconnaissance Platoon are the Marines' Special Operations Unit. They're trained for high-altitude drops behind enemy lines, underwater insertions, and beach reconnaissance, and as advanced scouts for larger military operations.
Basically, we can go behind enemy lines, find out where they are, report it back to higher, and from there, we can jump, we can dive, we can do small raids.
With unconventional warfare playing a greater role in the current crisis, small reconnaissance teams like this one might very well be the only ground troops capable of finding and engaging the enemy in both remote and urban areas.
Especially with the situation now, people are like, wow, we really got to get this job done. And not only in the Marine Corps, but especially when it comes to a Force Reconnaissance Unit, because we're such a small unit, and you got a 4 to 5 man team out there, they got to depend on each other. It doesn't matter what rank you are, there's a job to be done, you just do it. No questions asked.
You're not gonna hit a tree or a water jump out here. Well, Gunny Halpin's a big man.
A lot of times I'm the last one out, and I'll be the first one on the ground.
Grease bowling ball and a 10-pound bag of potatoes.
Hurts my body, and I'm not getting any younger. That's what being a Marine's about. You know, we fight in every climbing place, so.
This joint exercise drop with German, French, and Egyptian Special Operations units is part training and part dress rehearsal for any special operations they might have to do in the future.
No, you can use it and you don't injure.
The Marines are more interested in how the Germans are supplied with beer on their ships and their training exercises.
Beautiful. We don't have beer on our ship. Yeah.
No, I have beer on ship.
The food back on the ship is what the Marines in the field miss most, especially after a few days of eating MREs. They're officially known as meals ready to eat.
Oh, yeah.
With some entrees more notorious than others.
The beef frankfurters, there's 4 small ones that come in one package. Those would be the 4 fingers of death.
The country Captain chicken. And you always gotta put Tabasco sauce, get the taste out.
We're focused. We're here to train and don't really have time to sit and bemoan the fact that we don't have our creature comforts. We're not on the ship. We don't have our 3 squares a day and a clean shower and a clean bed.
I miss my family terribly. I have a son who's 2.5, and then I have a daughter, and then I have my wife who is back at the home front taking care of my son. And you know, my heart goes out to her, and the respect that I give her because of what she has to do. Sometimes her job is harder than mine.
It's lonely, very lonely. He's my best friend.
Some of us go to California.
This crisis makes the Marines more aware of religious and geopolitical overtones of this training exercise in the Middle East.
The religion is 94% Muslim. They believe in Islam, and they're known as Muslims.
On their first day in Egypt, they are briefed by one of the Navy's 3 Muslim chaplains on how closely connected the local culture and Islam really are, as well as some of the disconnects with the events of September 11th.
As people begin to question what are the reasons in their search for answers, they're obviously finding out that it's not a religion of terrorism and hate and destruction. It's actually one that, like all monotheistic religions, or even actually most religions, preaches peace and love and so on.
Marine Captain Haytham Faraj is a Lebanese-born Muslim whose family emigrated to the U.S. when he was 10. He speaks Arabic and is a forward artillery controller.
Religion is actually, although it's important for everyone, being a Marine is first. They've always been open. I mean, there's a free discussion, a free sort of atmosphere of ideas, and it's interesting because I work with I have a Jewish executive officer, and we have a free exchange of ideas, and we always say, imagine if people did what we do, we wouldn't have any problems.
On the first Friday ashore, Captain Faraj and other Muslim servicemen attend services at a local mosque on an Egyptian military base.
They were more surprised by the fact that they had an American officer, regardless of background, amongst them at a Friday prayer. But I think you will find that given that you have 1.2 billion Muslims in the world, there are a lot of different types of Muslims from different backgrounds and different races. Just like a Christian community would feel closer together in a church, or a Jewish community in a synagogue. And so I don't know that I feel that much closer because I'm in Egypt or Saudi Arabia. Really, I feel at home when I'm with my fellow Marines, and even more so at home when I'm with my family in the U.S.
Half a world away from home, the Marine community grows tighter in the middle of an Egyptian desert and an ageless conflict of cultures and beliefs.
Varsity.
When we return, the unit's main combat force, the Varsity, prepares its game plan for whatever is next.
In desert environment, The ability to move quickly from place to place is a combat multiplier and makes you a more effective combat force. I am able to mount out one of my rifle companies in assault amphibians, and combined with tanks and heavy machine gun assets that are in Humvees, they can strike very rapidly and move quickly across the desert floor.
Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Lyons commands the Strike Force component, the 1,200-man battalion landing team composed of the infantry, armor, and artillery units designed to strike fast and hard.
If you need me to go in and blow something up, I can do that. If you need me to go in and secure an airfield or a port, I can do that. If you need me to go in and protect relief convoys for humanitarian assistance, I can do that. It's just pick the one and send us.
Good shooting, though. 3 out of 4.
Their official designator is 3rd Marines, 6th Regiment, but they were respectfully nicknamed the Devil Dogs by their German adversaries during World War I. Colonel Lyons has added another moniker.
Our battalion's call sign is Varsity, to reflect that people bring individual skills and strengths, but then we train and we drill together, and we make the sum greater than the parts.
That's what I mean by the Varsity. Evaluated shot.
You're not second string. You're not the JV. You guys are the ones that are suiting up for every game, and when the whistle blows, you're hooking and jabbing.
The Varsity is like a brotherhood. It's an all-star team. Everyone takes care of everyone, and we all look out for each other, and we're just a band of brothers.
No platoon cut the half of the desert, sir.
Oh, yeah?
Scraped it off.
Marines are always in the game, especially for deployed Marines. This Varsity team is ready to be, you call the play, we're ready to go.
These are my boys right here. What's supposed to happen is if this was a stronghold, there'd be wire and maybe minefield down there, and that's what we'd blow. So the grunts would come up through our lane.
What we do is we go out just like this, just like the area that you're in right now. We spread out and we look for armor, we look for where the reconnaissance of the battalion. We're looking for harbor sites, we're looking for missile sites, anything of that nature that might go out and we report to higher. And if they give us orders, we destroy it. We operate night and day. We take naps whenever we can.
Varsity 4, is that refueler at your pause this time?
And eat whenever we can. We're constantly moving. As long as we got fuel, water, we're good.
Gunnery Sergeant David Hargrove says he's always wanted to carry on the family tradition of serving in the Marines, despite the fact that his father lost both of his legs as a Marine in Vietnam. He takes this legacy and his responsibilities as a non-commissioned officer very seriously.
You got to be a father figure, you got to be a brother figure sometimes, you got to be a disciplinary. That's usually where I come in. You have to make sure they're doing right, you know, because they are 18, 19 years old. And the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war.
Those are contaminated. How long do you have?
30 days.
30 days. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
To make sure they're ready for a possible chemical attack, they practice using their masks in a tent filled with tear gas and carry them at all times.
Gas, gas, gas! You can clear your mask as many times as you have to get out of there.
The chemical attack drills around the camp are frequent and suffocating in the desert heat. But this doesn't stop the Marines from pushing themselves to be ready for the unexpected, especially in light of the reports they're hearing from back home.
The 7-month-old child of an employee has tested positive for the skin form of anthrax, the most treatable form of the deadly disease.
I have 1,200 American heroes who feel very keenly the loss of our countrymen. They have left their families, they have left their loved ones, they have left their homes, and they're out here with their helmets and their rifles and their packs and their American spirit to do whatever needs to be done. We bear very keenly the loss of our countrymen, but we're out here on business. We're professionals.
Yeah, 10 more packages, re-enlistment packages here. You wouldn't think this would be the place that would motivate Marines and make them want to stay in for a few more years. They get out here in the dirt and the grime, and they start doing what they're paid to do, really love it and enjoy it, and they come up to you and say, sir, you signed me up for about 4 more years.
Your re-enlistment reflects uncommon devotion and loyalty to the country and to the Corps. It is this special kind of commitment that makes the Corps unique and respected throughout the world. the Corps is proud to have you in its ranks.
A Marine is only as strong as his home front. So if we have heroes out here, we have heroines at home who do all the things that the family is supposed to do while we are away serving our country.
Coming up.
These are the men who do the most ugly, dirty, filthy thing that we're directed to do.
The final live fire rehearsal for the Marines before moving deeper into the conflict area.
All right, the picture we painted was we are the door kickers for the rest of the BLT. Second platoon is pushing over this objective and consolidating. Tanks will begin to push around the left flank.
The conductor of this live fire combined assault is Captain T. Shane Tomko, a former piano major at the University of Illinois, and now the commander of the AAVs, the unit's armored assault vehicles. He uses a sand model to make sure everyone is on the same page and knows their cues.
You've got multiple pieces that have to come in at the exact time. And there's a rhythm to the battle. And it's not unlike directing a symphony. I mean, the clarinet's got to come in at the right time, cellos, et cetera, et cetera. So all these fire support agencies, the movement, the maneuver, everything has to be closely orchestrated. Look at every one of those Marines who's climbing in the back of an AAV. Every one of those individual Marines is a weapon. I wouldn't want to have that bearing down on me. These are the men who do the most ugly, dirty, filthy thing that we're directed to do. In that, we have to project such violence of action, such ferocity when we go down range. I kill anything on that objective area with the most ruthless abandon that I possibly can to ensure that nobody ever wants to fight me again, because in all reality, we'd rather not have to fight.
Despite the heat and the sand, the infantry plays its part as if someone's life might soon depend on it, given the latest news reports they're hearing about the crisis.
Watch your fire! Keep it tight! Keep it tight!
There's more of a sense of urgency. There's more of an added oomph behind everything that we do. The boys dig a little bit deeper when you tell them to dig in.
Let's go! Let's go! Dig up, let's go!
They push a little harder when you tell them to rush. The key with these young men is that they're incredibly patriotic, absolutely patriotic. And what happened recently in our nation, I think they see our own vulnerability. But we want to measurably respond to ensure that they understand you better never, ever, ever come to our house again.
The message we're sending that if you do something that hurts the American public, that is not right with the American way of life, and the American government, in a sense, as Dirty Harry says, you can make my day.
The next morning, their desert training mission is cut short. The battalion landing team gets its orders to break camp and return to the ships to stand by for further orders. As they ship out, they still don't know their next destination or mission as part of their 911 responsibilities.
When the decision is made, if it is made, to send in the Marines, the country, the world will get what they've always gotten with Marines. Tough, hardened warriors who don't care about themselves, but care about the mission. And they'll die making sure that they accomplish that mission.
The families held a candlelight vigil back in North Carolina. Not so much for their spouses and parents overseas, but primarily for the families of the September 11th tragedy, whose ultimate sacrifices have made theirs seem so much more worthwhile.
Here I am. I'm okay. Say hi to the girls. I love them too.
Daddy, I love you. Hi, sweetie.
Baby, I love you. Miss you. Hey, babe. We love you. Miss you.
We have all confidence that they are very well trained, that they're going to do what they're set out to do and come home.
Well, Melissa, you know I love you. Keep the soup warm. Sarah, good luck on your bike, learning how to ride your bike. Stay away from them boys.
The course of this conflict is not known, yet its outcome is certain. We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail. The hour is coming when America will act, and you will make us proud.
The Marines of the 26th Expeditionary Unit joined their colleagues from the 15th MEU from Camp Pendleton, California, ready to follow them ashore as the tip of the spear in Afghanistan. But exactly what will their next mission be, and where will it take them? Like so much about America's new war on terrorism, the future is uncertain. For MSNBC Investigates, I'm Forrest Sawyer.
To subscribe to our MSNBC Primetime newsletter or for information on upcoming programs, go to prime.msnbc.com.
Marines are collecting and detonating explosives at the airport to clear the way for flights to land there, American planes to come in. The mission, of course, to provide food, water, relief supplies to the Afghans and to set the stage for peacekeeping. And for the U.S. Marine base in the south, Camp Rhino, 65 miles southwest of Kandahar. That is where, under the cover of darkness, Marines are preparing to move supplies up north. All of this is a part of looking ahead at the new phase of this war. Part of that is coalition building. That is why Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld is overseas this weekend visiting 3 former Soviet republics, Azerbaijan, Georgia, as well as Armenia, offering military assistance in exchange for the use of their airspace. Of course, earlier today, the Secretary saying that the hope would be that there would be a mass surrender of al-Qaeda, but it looks like that is not happening. Suzanne Malveaux, NBC News at the Pentagon.
Now to southern Afghanistan, U.S. Marines continue their massive cleanup operation at the Kandahar airport. Hundreds of Marines descended on the airport from Camp Rhino. They're turning the war-torn airfield into an arrival point for military flights and humanitarian aid. But first, they must dispose of grenades, missiles, and other booby traps left behind along the airstrip. MSNBC's Rob Morrison is traveling with pool reporters at Camp Rhino, and he has this report for us.
The Marines' mission here in southern Afghanistan is winding down, and the mission has changed as well. The focus is getting Kandahar International Airport up and operational, and the Marines are saying that the interdictions, those hunter-killer teams we've been telling you about out in the desert searching for al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters, are not operating anymore. Supplies and troops from here at Camp Rhino continue to move forward to Kandahar International Airport, and soon that will be the forward operating base. And this place, Camp Rhino, is only expected to be open for a few more weeks. Lots of work to do at the airport, clearing minefields and going building to building, searching for booby traps and weapons. That's supposed to take at least a few more days. And already reports of massive amounts of weapons being discovered there. Machine guns, mortars, small arms, even a surface-to-air missile site that has been secured, we're told. It's being guarded now by friendly forces. And force protection is a huge concern for the Marines up there. They say they know there are small pockets of al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters in the area. They also say operating so close to an urban area poses inherent danger, so they have to be on extra high alert. And we've learned a detention center is being built at the airport, capable of holding between 100 and 300 prisoners. The thinking is that with all the action going on in Tora Bora, there may be some prisoners heading over there that need to be looked after. And once that bombed-out runway is fixed, then the C-17s can start landing and the international humanitarian aid can start rolling in. That's when the Marines start to pull out and the Army comes in to take over. That's the very latest here in southern Afghanistan with the U.S. Marines. I'm Rob Morrison. Now back to you.
And there's much more to tell you about this Saturday afternoon. He's seen by many as a traitor to his nation. Coming up here from American